Finding a therapist you actually click with. It's Sandra Mazili from Inner Action Counselling. Check this out, www.inneractioncounselling.co.uk. This is a part 2 video. So my part 1 was a presentation I gave to the American Council of the Blind, ACB, called Swipe Right on Therapy, and there's a link below to that. It talks all about how to choose a therapist. Most of it is about the logistics, check boxes on directories and looking at people's internet presence to find out about whether they specialize in what you want help with, individual versus family therapy, finances, lots of the logistical stuff. This video is more about the therapist's personality and whether that clicks with yours. So keep playing the video if you want to find out more about how therapists use their personality, if they've got one, in the therapy sessions. Now, how unfair was that? That was seriously unfair. But I'm being a little bit flippant about the continuum in therapy. So the continuum is from one extreme to the other. One end, the therapist is a complete blank canvas or blank screen. And you don't really know what they're like at all. They don't react to what you're saying and how you're saying it or the things you do. And the idea is that you can project your stuff, whatever that may be, onto that blank canvas. And they're a vessel for that stuff. And then at the extreme end of the other end of that continuum is the therapist is utterly themselves with you and their genuine self. And I'm closer to that end than the blank screen, although I can see a use for it, especially when there's a lot of deep, painful processing and so on going on, that the therapist does need to hold the space for you and be still. But I'm not like that all the time. Okay. So now we've sorted that out, that sense of continuum or spectrum. Assuming you want a more contemporary form of therapy where the therapist is using their personality with you in the session to be themselves and walk alongside you in your pain, but their genuine self. What is their genuine self actually like? And this is why I think it was a bit of a fluke that I made a separate video, because it was all supposed to be one video, but it got so utterly long that I needed to break it up a bit. But anyway, it works out because this is a completely different subject from the logistics and the checkboxes and things. And you can't use the checkboxes as in, this is my issue and I just want therapists who deal with this issue and therapists with this financial range and therapists who take insurance, or therapists who are individual based versus couples, or marriage and family therapy, or children and young people, or the language they speak, or the method they use, as in analysis versus cognitive behavioral versus humanism, or online versus in person. You can't really use checkboxes to assess what that person is like, and more importantly, what they'll be like with you and whether you guys click or not. Sooner or later, you're going to have to dig a bit deeper into the information about the person you're after, either using their internet presence and gleaning information from what they've written about themselves and audio or video content, if any. And I'd just like to stick a bit of defense in for some therapists, because I think it's rare today to find somebody who doesn't have any video, but you might find a few without videos. And some videos may be a bit stilted. That doesn't mean that person is stilted. It may be that they don't like, oblique, hate being on camera. I rather like it. Sometimes the camera doesn't like me, but I really like doing this kind of thing more than the writing, which is why my blog on my website is thin on the ground and why my YouTube videos are more plentiful than my blog posts, because I like yakking versus writing. But anyway, my early videos are a bit more stilted. They're a bit like, hello, I'm so-and-so, and I help with this. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but not as much as you might think, okay? So sooner or later, you might have to do that thing called talking to the person you want to work with, or persons, assuming that you have whittled the selection down from the thousands to the tens to the single digits. And then to discern between them, you talk to them, possibly having a consultation session, which will be between 15, 20 minutes. So referring to my own practice, that's what I do. I offer a free 20-minute consultation session with people. And so you will find out really what their personality is like then. So you could be looking at somebody who is like you or somebody who's very different from you, depending on what you are after. You might want somebody on your own wavelength. Oh, they're like me. Or you might not. You might, I don't want someone like me. And sometimes what they look like or sound like may feed into your decision. And it could be extraordinarily shallow, and that's okay, really, because I've said this in my other video and I'm saying it now, you go with your gut. So I've had therapy myself and I give therapy to other people. And there have been occasions where I have picked people based on some really shallow reasons. Or I've read their profile details and I think, oh, they look good. And then talking to them on the phone, I'm like, oh, no way. What was I thinking? I remember one in particular who I didn't work with, and they seemed okay on the internet, but I spoke to them on the phone. And if you've come across the children's series, The Chipmunks, you'll know what I mean when I tell you that they kind of sounded a bit like Alvin. And in my head, I was thinking, I really can't share my painful stuff with Alvin. I just can't do it. So that was really basic and not good. That either you click with somebody or you don't. And sometimes it will take the consultation stage to get to that point. And sometimes you might even have to have one session with the person before you really, really know. But by that time, you will know if it's going to work out or not. And I've talked in my other video about the checkboxes and directories and websites and internet presence and all the rest of it. And you could, for the sake of argument, circumvent this by asking people you know, like, and trust, friends or family members. You've got to be careful about this because the caveat is that you may get a recommendation from a friend or a colleague and find that that therapist doesn't accept recommendations from friends, colleagues, family members. So check this. And I would check that in the initial inquiry email or similar, because it'd be awful to find the therapist of your dreams, or we really click on a personal level and they can't work with you because of this or that recommendation situation. So I'm okay with friends recommending each other, or let's say, students on different courses. That's fine with me. Where I draw the line is family, as in my own, and that is an ethical setup with different ethical bodies. Because while the law is quite clear on what you can and can't do, ethical codes and ethical bodies are also quite clear, but that's subject to interpretation sometimes. So family members of my own, either immediate or distant, it doesn't matter how many times removed, ethically, that's a no-go. Friends, not my own friends, but other people's friends or friends of friends is absolutely fine. Another line I will draw, because I see couples as well, you might find you're in couples counselling with a therapist, and then it turns out you have issues of your own that would be best suited for individual therapy, can't see the same therapist. And you certainly couldn't if it was me. So if I was seeing you as a couple and one of you needed individual assistance with something, I would have to help you find somebody else. Even though I do both things, can't be with the same person. And that works the other way. Either I'm seeing you individually and you need help with your partnership, I'd find you a couples counsellor. So check what they will and won't do. And this goes for anything that you feel is a deal-breaking issue, is check these things in the initial inquiry email or whatever correspondence. Maybe you leave an answer phone message, maybe you're more comfortable with that. But just finding out what they will and won't accept and what they will or won't help with. So if you've got an issue that isn't listed on their catalogue of issues that they help with, it may well be that they help with that. They just don't do that very often or don't feel they can attract clients in that area. So, for example, I don't really say very much about substance abuse online. I can help with that, but in certain circumstances. So I don't help people with drug issues, but I can help with alcohol depending on the circumstances, as in if there's a recovery program in place. It doesn't have to be rehab or AA or similar, even if it's a regime that you've set up yourself and social support and things, but there has to be a something in place. Just as an example. So check with the person you want to work with. And then you may or may not glean from their social media presence or other internet presences that they might like the same things as you or different things, so books and movies and all the rest of it. You may or may not care about that. And the longer you're working with somebody, the more that kind of thing may come into play. If you're working with 6 weeks, it's less likely that you'll come across TV you guys like. But 2 years, it may come into play. So some ideas about how personality can work in therapy as to whether you guys click or not. That's the end of this video. Thanks for sticking around. If you'd like to have a video about something specific, then add a comment below in the suggestions little area. Like and subscribe for more interesting content. Until next time, take care and bye for now.